There comes a moment, sometimes in silence, sometimes in crisis, when the human mind stumbles upon a truth so unsettling that it cannot remain unchanged. That truth is this: death is not the enemy of life, but the very force that gives it motion. Without death, life would lose its rhythm, its urgency, its preciousness. Imagine a piece of music. Without an ending, it would be nothing but an endless repetition. Sound without direction, noise without resolution. Life without death would be the same, flat, directionless, stripped of its melody. Byung-Chul Han, the philosopher whose work resonates strongly with modern audiences, reminds us that the suppression of death is one of the great illusions of our age. We build technologies to push it away, industries to hide it, distractions to forget it. Yet all of these efforts do not erase death. They only erase the wisdom it can teach us. And when we erase that wisdom, we also erase the possibility of truly living. This video is not about glorifying death. It is not about despair. It is about seeing clearly. To see death as the engine of life is to awaken from the sleep of distraction. It is to live differently, not in denial, not in fear, but in the raw intensity of presence. Today we will walk through 7 reflections, each one showing how mortality, once accepted, becomes not a weight but a source of freedom. Let us begin with the first truth. Part 1. The secret pact between death and meaning. Every human life is written under a contract we never signed, but which none of us can escape, the contract of mortality. We do not choose the moment of our birth, nor the moment of our ending. What we can choose is how we walk in between, and it is precisely because that walk has an ending that it becomes meaningful. Imagine a life without death. Imagine an existence where time stretches infinitely, where every opportunity could always be postponed until tomorrow. If you had forever, would you bother to love today? Would you risk rejection, knowing you could always try again in another century? Would you create art, knowing there was infinite time to create later? Or would you delay endlessly until life became nothing but a fog of procrastination? It is death that sharpens the blade of urgency. It is the knowledge that time will run out that makes us speak, that makes us dare, that makes us hold tightly to those we love. Without death, meaning would collapse into dust. Meaning requires limits, and death is the ultimate limit. Philosophers have long understood this. The Stoics advised meditating daily on mortality, not as a grim ritual, but as a way to awaken gratitude. Heidegger spoke of being toward death, arguing that only by confronting death do we break free from the triviality of everyday distraction. Even the poets knew this. Emily Dickinson wrote that the presence of death made every blade of grass shine brighter. Byung-Chul Han adds a modern dimension. In our culture of speed, where everything is consumed instantly, death becomes even more important as a grounding force. In a world of infinite scrolling, where one can always move on to the next image, the next post, the next distraction, death reminds us that not everything is replaceable. Some moments come once. Some faces appear only briefly. Some chances vanish forever. To recognize this is not to live in fear. It is to live in intensity. When you understand that death is the engine of meaning, you begin to treat time differently, not as a resource to waste, but as a sacred gift. Part 2. The modern denial of death and the hollow life it creates. And yet for all of this, our age is an age of denial. Byung-Chul Han observes that modern society hides death as if it were shameful. Once people died in their homes, surrounded by family, in a rhythm where death was woven into the everyday. Today, death is pushed into hospitals, sterilized, hidden behind closed doors. Funerals are made efficient, quick, almost invisible. Cemeteries are moved to the edges of cities. We live as if death were a glitch in the system, rather than the structure of the system itself. But there is a price for this denial. When we refuse to face death, we refuse to face life. We become restless, endlessly chasing more. More years, more achievements, more possessions, more distractions. We scroll late into the night, buy what we don't need, work beyond exhaustion, not because these things fulfill us, but because they numb us. The soul knows what the culture denies. The soul knows that time is running out. This is why modern life often feels hollow. The more we deny death, the more shallow our living becomes. We no longer ask what matters most given the time I have. Instead, we ask, how can I delay the confrontation with my own finitude? We work, we optimize, we extend, but we do not live. Think of how paradoxical this is. We invent technologies to prolong life, but we forget how to fill life with depth. We extend the length of the journey but lose sight of its direction. A long life without meaning is emptier than a short life filled with intensity. This is the crisis of our age. Without death in view, we mistake activity for significance, productivity for purpose, distraction for joy. But no amount of scrolling, no amount of busyness, no amount of denial can erase the truth. Death waits for each of us. To live well, we must not run from it. We must learn from it. When we bring death back into awareness, everything shifts. Suddenly, time is no longer cheap. Every conversation has weight. Every embrace feels urgent. Every sunrise looks like a gift that will not come again. Death restores depth, and in restoring depth, it restores life. Part 3. Mortality as the seed of freedom. There is a strange paradox at the heart of mortality. What seems like the ultimate limit is, in fact, the deepest form of liberation. If life were infinite, we would become prisoners of hesitation. Choices would lose their weight, because there would always be more time to decide. Commitments would feel meaningless because they could always be reversed. But when life is finite, decisions cut deep. To choose becomes to create yourself. To commit becomes to honor the shortness of your time. Think about it. The awareness of death frees us from the illusion that we must do everything, be everything, have everything. We cannot. Life is short. That shortness is painful, but it is also clarifying. It tells us you must choose. You must decide what matters most to you. You cannot do it all, but you can do what is essential. Byung-Chul Han argues that in the modern era, the obsession with extending life, whether through medical technologies, anti-aging industries, or digital traces, ironically enslaves us. We become terrified of limits, terrified of endings, terrified of missing out. Yet freedom does not come from escaping limits. It comes from embracing them. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus, who was once a slave, declared that no man is free who does not accept his mortality. For as long as we deny death, we remain enslaved to fear. But once we accept it, nothing can truly chain us. What can the world threaten you with? If you have already made peace with the ultimate inevitability, to see death as the engine of freedom is to walk through life with lightness. Suddenly, criticism loses its sting. Failure loses its terror. Rejection loses its power. If all is temporary, then nothing should paralyze you. The fact that life ends does not shrink its value, it multiplies it. It frees you to live boldly, to love fully, to speak truth without trembling. Part 4. The creativity of the finite. If you look closely, you will see that everything beautiful in human culture blooms out of finitude. Music ends, paintings fade, stories have last chapters. Love knows the risk of loss. It is the fragility of these things that makes them shimmer with beauty. Without death, art would be unnecessary. Love would lack urgency. Memory would have no meaning. Byung-Chul Han notes that in a culture obsessed with performance, efficiency, and endless digital production, we risk forgetting the creative power of limits. We believe that more is always better. More content, more speed, more output. Yet it is the limit that gives birth to form. A poem is powerful because it ends. A melody moves us because it fades. Death, too, works like a frame around a painting. The canvas would not exist without its edges. The picture would dissolve into infinity without boundaries. In the same way, human life acquires shape only because it has an edge. A boundary, a final line. That finality is not an enemy. It is the very condition of beauty. Think of the great works of philosophy, literature, and art. They are not escapes from death. They are responses to it. They are human beings carving meaning into the face of finitude. Without the pressure of mortality, Shakespeare's plays would not burn with urgency. Without the fragility of time, Van Gogh's canvases would not pulse with such desperate beauty. Without the awareness of death, no love letter would ever be written. For what would urgency mean in a life without end? To live creatively is to live under the shadow of death. Creativity does not deny mortality. It converses with it. It transforms the fear of ending into the fire of expression. Death, therefore, is not only the engine of life, but also the muse of art. Part 5. The presence of the moment. Perhaps the greatest gift of mortality is its ability to pull us back into the present. We are often trapped in time, haunted by the past, anxious about the future. But death whispers to us, the present is all you truly have. Every future you dream of is uncertain. Every past you remember is gone. What remains, solid and alive, is this moment. Byung-Chul Han argues that one of the tragedies of modern digital culture is its theft of the present. We scroll endlessly, trapped in cycles of anticipation and distraction, always leaning toward the next notification, the next post, the next update. But in that leaning forward, we abandon the moment we are actually living. We live everywhere but here. Death, however, is the great reminder. It tells us time is not infinite, so do not waste it in absence. To embrace death is to embrace presence. Suddenly, a conversation is not background noise, but an unrepeatable event. A walk through the park is not filler, but a fleeting miracle. The face of a friend is not ordinary, but irreplaceable. The Japanese concept of mono no aware captures this beautifully. It means an awareness of the transience of things, and a gentle sadness that makes them more precious. The falling cherry blossoms are not beautiful in spite of their fragility. They are beautiful because of it. Our lives are the same. The awareness of death deepens the colors of the present. When we deny death, we rush past life. But when we embrace death, we slow down, we notice, we breathe, we see. We live not in abstraction, but in vivid presence. Every moment becomes luminous because it is unrepeatable. Every gesture becomes sacred because it will never return. This is not a reason to despair. It is a reason to awaken. To live each moment as if it were your last is not to live recklessly. It is to live consciously. Death reminds us that presence is the only real form of eternity we can taste while alive. Part 6. Love in the shadow of death. If there is one place where death reveals its presence most powerfully, it is in love. Every act of love is shaped by the awareness that we do not have forever with those we cherish. Think of the way you look at someone you fear losing. Their face appears more vivid, their voice more precious, their presence more fragile. Death sharpens love like a blade, cutting away indifference, reminding us that to hold another human being is to hold a moment that will not return. Byung-Chul Han warns that modern culture often treats relationships as disposable. We swipe left, swipe right, trade people like profiles, mistaking quantity for depth. But when love is stripped of mortality, it becomes shallow, a passing entertainment rather than a sacred bond. True intimacy emerges only when we acknowledge that our time with another is finite. It is death that makes a kiss urgent. It is death that makes an embrace eternal. The philosopher Martin Heidegger once said that being toward death reveals the possibility of authentic connection. To live with death in view is to strip away masks, to speak honestly, to dare vulnerability. Love without this vulnerability is not love at all. It is a performance. Real love grows only in the soil of mortality because it requires courage. The courage to attach yourself to someone knowing that loss is inevitable. And yet, far from destroying us, this risk is what makes love sublime. The most unforgettable moments of human life are bound to the fragility of existence. Weddings, births, reunions, even final goodbyes. Love is not the denial of death. It is our most beautiful response to it. It is how we say, even though all things pass, in this moment I give myself completely. Part 7. Death as the mirror of life. At the heart of philosophy lies a single command: know yourself. But how does one truly come to know oneself? By looking into the mirror of death. When we confront the fact that life ends, we are forced to ask questions we often avoid. What do I value most? What am I willing to suffer for? What will remain of me when I am gone? Byung-Chul Han suggests that our culture has become skilled at avoiding these questions. We replace them with smaller ones. What do I want to buy? What should I post? How many likes will I get? But these are not the questions of a life lived fully. They are distractions. Only the mirror of death cuts through the noise. When you look into that mirror, you see your illusions fall away. You realize that wealth cannot follow you. Fame cannot shield you. Possessions cannot comfort you. What remains are the traces of your choices, the love you gave, the words you spoke, the courage you showed. Death is the mirror that reveals what truly matters. because it strips away everything that does not. This reflection is not meant to paralyze you with fear. It is meant to energize you with clarity. When you live with the mirror of death before you, you stop wasting time on what is shallow. You no longer drift aimlessly. You begin to align your days with your deepest values, because you know each day is one step closer to the end. The mirror of death does not darken life. It polishes it until it shines. Ending. To live is to die, and to die is to live. We have traveled far together, across 7 reflections on mortality, guided by the insight that death is not life's enemy but its engine. We have seen that death gives birth to meaning, that it frees us, that it fuels creativity, that it anchors us in the present, that it deepens love, that it clarifies our choices, and that it mirrors back the essence of who we are. The modern world may try to hide death, but the wise do not turn away. The wise know that in every passing moment, death is quietly reminding us to live. To deny death is to drift in shallowness. To embrace death is to awaken to intensity. Byung-Chul Han's warning is also an invitation. Do not let yourself be numbed by distraction, lulled by endless scrolling, seduced by the illusion of permanence. Life is fleeting, and precisely because it is fleeting, it is beautiful. So let us not waste time fearing death. Let us live with it in our sight. Let us hold those we love more closely, speak our truths more boldly, create with more passion, and savor the fragile beauty of the present moment. For one day, sooner than we think, the music will end. And when it does, may we not look back in regret, but in gratitude for the rhythm of our lives, shaped by death, will have been our greatest gift.